I welcome everyone to the Gobeshona monthly webinar. It is my great honor and pleasure to introduce our today's speaker, Dr. Choyon Goswami, who is going to talk us about the climate resilient agriculture for food and nutrition security. Before his presentation, I would like to give a brief background of Dr. Choyon Goswami. Dr. Choyon Goswami is currently working as professor in the Department of Biochemistry and Molecular Biology in Bangladesh Agricultural University. He is also serving as Associate Director, Bangladesh Agricultural University Research System of the same university. He completed his Bachelor of Science in Agriculture and Master of Sciences Biochemistry from Bangladesh Agricultural University. He obtained his PhD degree from Saitama University, Japan, and did postdoctoral research subsequently in different universities and institutes, namely GC Medical University, Kansai Electric Power Medical Research Institute, and Kobe University in Japan. He was awarded Max Scholarship from the government of Japan and also awarded the scholarship from the government of India. He had already published a number of papers in reputed journals, international and national journals. Most of them were based on insight from the food and nutrition obtained from agricultural products and their impact on human health. His current research focus is on to ensure food security and safety of agricultural products for human consumption and to serve mankind. I am sure we will enrich by this webinar. Once again, I welcome all of you for this session. And ladies and gentlemen, please join me in giving a warm welcome to our today's speaker of this session, Dr. Choyon Goswami. I am cordially requesting Dr. Choyon Goswami to start his presentation, and I am requesting all of you to mute because we want to record this webinar for our further use. So please, Dr. Choyon Goswami, you can start your presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Rakhi Chakraborty. Am I audible?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
We can hear you clearly.
And you can, I hope you can see my screen also.
Yeah, we can see your screen.
Okay, again, thank you, Dr. Rakhi Chakraborty and the audience and the organizer of today's monthly webinar from Gobeshona and International Center for Climate Change and Development. So today I'm going to talk about the title, Climate Resilient Agriculture for Food and Nutrition Security. All of you has already been informed that I am working as a professor in agriculture, Bangladesh Agriculture University. So my interest is particularly on agricultural sector to serve food and nutrition for the peoples of Bangladesh and to contribute in the science for the world's perspectives. So this is the outline of the today's presentation. First of all, I will discuss about climate change because for climate resilient agriculture, we need to know more about the climate change and their impacts on the different components of the nature, and then the climate resilient agriculture and climate technologies of climate resilient agriculture, alternative approaches that different kind of studies, and particularly the hydroponic studies, what is the part of my research activities to address. So today I will report some findings from my research and then the way forward. I hope all of you will enjoy this session, and at the end of the session, maybe we have a discussion session and question answer segment, so we can discuss later, or if you have any question, please put your question in the chat box. Okay, let's start. So it is a global concern that climate change is a hot topic for nowadays. So in the climate change, it is actually the long-term shipments of the temperature patterns, whether it is the precipitation levels, wind patterns, and other aspects of the Earth climate system. So actually it is driven by some people or human activities, particularly the greenhouse gases, their carbon dioxide, which are actually come from the burning of fossil fuels and from like industries, automobiles, and also they causes the damage of the natural atmosphere and causes the climate changes and changing that overall the climate. Some kind of disasters like forest fire or volcanoes, deforestation is also contribute a lot to change the climate. And from the practically, we can see that growth of population and ruminants causing some greenhouse gas emission, and also the agrochemicals and the changes in the land use pattern, or we can say excessive land use causing the climate change, and these are the main factors. So if we want to check the potential effects of climate change, so there are different components, like temperature, precipitation, sea level, and rise. So the changes in temperature, precipitation, and sea level also causes the health issues, particularly weather-related issues, mortality, infectious diseases, and air quality respiratory illnesses. When we consider about the species and natural areas, loss of habitats or species, and particularly the cryosphere, diminishing the glacier or the frozen ice become melting and changing the habitats patterns of that particular area. In case of water resources, we can see that the quality and the supply of water also hampered or impacted by the climate change. And in case of agriculture, the major concern from our side, we can see that climate change causing the hamper the loss of the crop yields by different physiological changes or total quality changes, and also increasing the demand of irrigation because of some kind of droughts or some salinity. So irrigation with fresh water also demand is increasing. In the coastal areas, we can see that erosion of beaches and inundation of coastal lands and additional cost to protect coastal communities also increasing. And particularly in the forest areas, the forest composition, geographic range, and forest health productivity also hampered by this climate change. So as a whole, we can say from health to forest, all these components are disrupted or impacted by this climate change pattern. So here is this particular climate change in Bangladesh or their potential effect. So that the headline is the difficult to keep cool. Actually, truly, we can say that the temperature is increasing day by day from our experience for the last few years. However, the data from 1976 to 2019, the average temperature rise was 0.5 degrees Celsius. And it was particularly in the central part of the country, Dhaka and neighbor districts, whereas it is 0.9 degrees Celsius rise in eastern parts on Chattogram and Sylhet division. If you look at the bar graph, that is the change in mean historical monthly temperature from 19,001 to 2019, the average temperature in the month of February was the highest change by 1.9 degrees Celsius. Actually, it is the winter season and it is getting warmer. So winter is getting warmer. But during the summer season, the temperature is little increasing comparatively lower, but it is actually the very hot timing, and the summer period is also prolonging or becoming longer, and monsoon becoming unpredictable. So all these are changing the weather pattern of this country. So in case of Bangladesh monsoon and longer and rainfall is erratic. So Bangladesh monsoon season is actually from June to August, and this actually average rainfall is 60 millimeters. But due to the climate change, we can see that it is actually traveling from September to October and increasing rainfall and 43 millimeters, suggesting that longer monsoon from March to October. So, and also, I hope you can, sorry, I have to stop sharing. This screenshot is actually have some trouble, I think. Can you see the table here?
No. We cannot see your slide now.
You can see but there is a table. Can you see here?
No, we cannot see.
Okay, just a few seconds. I want to fix this problem. I think you can now see the table here. Okay.
Yeah, we can see clearly.
Okay, sorry for the interruption. Actually, this table is showing the changes in the amount of rainfall millimeter per year in 4 seasons. Actually, winter, monsoon, and pre-monsoon and post-monsoon. If we look at the monsoon period, we can see that the rainfall or amount of rainfall per year is increasing due to in the southeast part and in the north-south part and also in the north part. So selective areas of the country, the monsoon, during the monsoon, that rainfall amount is increasing. And the post-monsoon also there is an increase in the rainfall. So it's representing that the monsoon period is prolonging from the different region of that country. So there is some climatic sub-regions of the country, Bangladesh. So there is a different color for different sub-regions. So I want to focus on there that how these different kinds of elements are impacting the different parts and different sectors. So temperature rise and drought, particularly in the northwest part, impacted the agriculture, water, electricity supply, and health. Whereas sea level rise and salinity institution, particularly in the coastal areas, it's also have affected the agriculture, water, and human settlement. Floods in the Chol land and the central region or northeast region is also impacting some parts of sectors. Cyclone and storm surge, particularly in the coastal and marine zone, marine fishing, infrastructure, and human settlement, life and property also impacted by these disasters. Drainage congestion and also has some impact. So overall, these things that the country different side, different factors or different kind of disaster are impacting the different sectors, and as a whole, from agriculture to livelihood, all things are also impacted by the climate change. That's why we are thinking about in Bangladesh in the great risk of climate change. So not only the agriculture sector and livelihood pattern, but also the human health has a great impact of climate change on human health. So rising temperature, more extreme weather, rising sea level, and increasing carbon dioxide level, all these things causing the extreme heat or severe weather, air pollution, changing the vector ecology, increasing allergens, water quality impacts, water and food supply impacts, and environmental degradation. All these things have causing different kinds of diseases as shown in the bar graph or chart. So this chart indicates that we have a diversified impacts of climate change on the human health. So it's also an alarming thing. If we focus on the respiratory allergy, maybe sometimes it is surprising how the climate change affecting the respiratory diseases. We can see that climate change increase of heavy precipitation patterns, which causes the asthma-like epidemics and causes the respiratory allergy. Whereas in case of global warming, during the global warming, the pollen season, we know that some trees have some pollen which causes the allergy, and this is also causes the respiratory allergy. And reduction of colder days, and it also reduce the susceptibility to upper respiratory infections. It's actually positively affect, but overall, if we change the changes in atmospheric circulation patterns, this also has impact on the respiratory allergy. So air pollution also has a negative effect on the respiratory system. So we can say that respiratory illnesses are likely to increase with rising temperature and humidity. Particularly, 1 degree increase in temperature increases the incidence of respiratory infection by 5.7%, whereas 1% increase in humidity, it causes the 1.5% increase of the incidences. So now we want to check the impact of climate change on agricultural sector. In case of agricultural sector, if the temperature rises, we can see the early flowering of the plants, which causes the accelerated maturity of the grain or plant products, which is not accepted by this our expected level, and also the grain quality is very poor, and also increases the demand of irrigation. In case of extreme weather, soil erosion also causes some kind of loss of arable lands, and causes the crop failure, and the fertile land becomes submergence. So by this, we lose our arable land or cultivable land for the production of crops, and ultimately changing the cropping pattern and declining the yield and decreasing the quality of the product. In case of livestock sector, it also losses the production, increase the mortality of the animals, and also causes some diseases. And ultimately, if we consider all these things, nutritional security is under threat and socio-economic impact. So ultimately, all these factors causes the malnutrition, effect on the trading of the agricultural commodities, and also the migration of the rural people from the urban areas for seeking their new job, and threat to the livelihood, ultimately reduce the productivity. So all these things affect the agricultural sector, and this causes the changing in the pattern of the livelihood, and peoples become vulnerable to different kinds of climate changes. So we want to focus on the major consequences of climate change on agriculture, particularly the salinity, drought, and extreme floods. In case of salinity, salination is a process of increasing salt content in soil or water, leading to elevated levels of soluble salts. But in our country, we can see that the inundation of the coastal areas by the saline water from the sea causes the increase of salinity of that coastal regions. So it caused by also arid climates, saline subsoils, and inadequate drainage. It is estimated that at least 20% of irrigated lands are salt affected in the world. So if we see the mechanism, so we can see that due to the salinity, drinking water and also the inundation and irrigation water becomes saline and causes the negative impact on the soil and plant, and reduce the health, also negative impacts on the health of that particular region, and reduce the productivity, ultimately economic losses, and created poverty or increase the poverty. So all these things is a negative cycle. So they are in a cyclic order, so and contributing a lot. So in case of salinity, from the global perspectives, we see that it's an alarming increase in the coastal areas, 1 to 33% in the last 25 years in case of salinity. So high evaporation, saline water, low precipitation, and salinization increases the 10% annually from the agricultural land. That means from the total agricultural land, 10% is going to the under salinization. So our 833 million hectare of agricultural land is all affected globally. And it is expected, or it is estimated, that 50% of the arable land would be salinized by 2050. If we see the particular pie chart, from this pie chart, particularly that Australia has a highest million of hectares under salinity, whereas it is less in the South Asia, but the size or the volume of the total area of the country is lower. So that's why the percentage is very small, but it is remarkable for the South Asian countries, particularly for Bangladesh in the coastal areas. About 6% of the cultivated area destroyed by salinization, as reported in earlier studies. So how the salinity impact the plants? In the morphological aspects, it inhibits the seed germination and the chlorosis, or the damage of the plant leaves and the chlorophyll producing organs. Leaf senescence, death of the leaves, and growth is also retarded, and decrease shoot and root and fresh and dry weight. In case of biochemical effects, oxidative stress, electrolyte leakage, reduce the carbon fixation, and chromatic breaks and membrane damage. All these biochemical functions are also affected by salinity. So if we see the physiological effect, the stomatal closure and photosynthesis also inhibited. That is, the production of food for the plant is also inhibited by the salinity. Water content is also decreased, and osmotic potential low, and ultimately the nutrient imbalance. That's all these things affect on the productivity of the crop by spikelet sterility, less grain weight, or low grain yield, and low harvest index. So if we can see that wheat ground under saline condition and wheat under normal condition, so the growth ultimately is affected by this salinity. So this is the total area of each country in case of salinity. So this is the predicted values from 19,080 to 2018. This is the total we can see also Bangladesh here. It is though is in the green areas. Actually, it is the total area. So that as being a small country, Bangladesh total area is also smaller. If we consider the sea surface salinity, that is the marked as a red for the greater than 35.2%, and then that the decreasingly. So we can see that red area is little bit far from the Bangladesh coastal region. So because the dispersion of salinity in the world is there is no climate change. So will not be affected, but the climate change continued. What will be the scenario? So we can see that dispersion of salinity in the world, if there is a climate change with the increase of temperature for 2 degrees Celsius, that means increase the 2%, 2 degrees Celsius. So the red area will be extended to the coastal region of Bangladesh. That is the extreme salinity more than 36%. So it is an alarming condition if global temperature increases by 2 degrees Celsius. So if we focused on the Bangladesh perspectives, it is a major problem, and it's also affect almost 1/3 of the agricultural land, and particularly in the coastal area. So according to SRDI, 2.86 million hectares of coastal and offshore lands, about 1.056 million hectares of arable lands are affected by varying degrees of salinity. So if we look at this graph, we can see that a blue color is or purple color is the margin for the soil salinity boundary in 1973. However, it extended to in the 2000 by the black color, marked as a black color, and by the red color we can see the salinity boundary in the 2009. So it is extended largely from 1973 to 2000, and little bit slowly from 2009, but it is very far from the coastal region. So it is also alarming for this country. And about 53% of the coastal region is affected by different degrees of salinity. So that Bola, Potuakhali, Satkira, Bagherhat, Khulna, Feni, all these districts are under salinity or saline condition. So did not change much from 1972 to 2009, but their Joshua, Norail, Borishal, Gopalganj, Madaripur, and Jhalokati that was minimal effect of salinity in 1970. It was extended greatly or impacted by salinity in 2009. This table shows that the level of salinity in surface water in ppm. So we can see that different districts has different kinds of level of different salinity, though these levels are very alarming for the crop growth and other activities. So this is the impact of salinity on agricultural crops. So from the salinity, we can see that there are some ions like sodium. It causes the osmotic imbalance, osmotic effect, low water potentiality of plants, and causes the poor plant growth and yield loss. So in case of salinity, higher pH, and this pH, higher bicarbonate and carbonate, which reduce micronutrient availability and dominating sodium ion. So it also affects the growth and the flowering and fruiting of the plants. And also poor iron and manganese deficiency diseases like Lyme-induced chlorosis. So a chlorosis also appeared here. Salinity also causes the ion effect, which retard the root uptake, direct foliar absorption, burnt leaf and dead tissue of the edge of the leaf, and ultimately yield loss. So all these things, this mechanism causes the loss of the product crop. Another one is the drought. So drought stress refers to the adverse impacts that occur when plants experience a prolonged period of water scarcity or limited water availability. In the world's perspective, we can see that Africa has experienced 30 to 40% of the drought prone areas, and in Asia it is 20 to 30% considered as a drought prone. In the graph, we can see that the countries that have under the highest drought rates, Bangladesh in the number 3. So it is a very also another impact of climate change that are also threat for the Bangladesh. If we see in the African countries, about 40% more humanitarian assistance will be needed in Ethiopia compared to previous years due to significant crop and livestock production losses from severe drought. Overall, 48% lower cereal crop production was estimated for the last rainy season in Somalia, and that 70% less crop production in Kenya. So this is very remarkable percentage of the crops will be damaged, or livestock will be hampered due to the drought. And the 3 million have been exposed in areas of drought watch and earning alarming in East Africa for the last 2 years. So livelihood pattern will also be affected by this drought. And annual of 15% of the land area and the 70% of the population within the European Union is affected by drought, directly or indirectly. And 45 major drought events occurred in Europe, affecting millions of people and resulting in more than 27.8 billion US dollar in economic loss. And these US crop failures, other economic losses due to drought have totaled several hundred billions US dollar over the last century. And 20 million people died for the last few major drought events in past century, several hundred billion USD economic losses worldwide. So from this 1981 to 2010, average detected temperature increased by 1.39 degrees Celsius in the year 2020, particularly in Asia. So here is the impacts of drought on ecosystem. Severe drought causes the 12 million hectares of land lost every year, which is increases affected the plants of an ecosystem. Some drought in 2003, 30% reduction of the photosynthesis European ecosystem, 0.5 gigatons net carbon release, and mega fires in Australia from 2019 to 20, 3 billion animals were died, affected the ecosystem. So drought and the wildfire, so all these things affecting the ecosystem and their lives there on inside the ecosystems. If we look at the drought in Bangladesh, rainfall exceeds the potential evapotranspiration in monsoon, but less than evaporation in the remaining month. Due to dry season, evapotranspiration exceeds more than 0.5 times than the monsoon season, which accelerated drought and affecting food security. So due to some part of this country are experiencing drought and is causing the hampering the growth of the plants and also the agricultural production, and ultimately causing the hampering the food security. The northern region of Bangladesh, marked in the map, has some districts. This districts recent decades been afflicted by the recurrent and severe drought, which in turn often lead to intense food insecurity. That's why we are thinking about, we are focusing on that part of this country to address the food security on particularly the northern part of the country. Here is the some districts of the northern part of the country, and they ranked from a study, they ranked the different districts which are under threat or under risk, and the different parts, and particularly the Panchagor and Thakurgaon is very severe risk of this under drought. So extreme floods also cause a significant threat to farmers globally. So a sudden flood we also experience in the Howrah areas and other countries. So they have been devastating effects on crops, livestock, and agricultural productivity. So floods may have caused over half of agricultural disaster. The consequences include higher price and food shortages. So the effect of floods, as shown in this figure, erosion, waterlogging, and salinization impacting the agricultural productivity. So if we check the causative mechanisms of extreme floods, we can see that intense rainfall, human activities, deforestation, urbanization, river overflow, and climate change, frequency and intensity rainfall, all these factors causes the extreme floods. And also some other factors which are beyond of our control. So if we check the bar graph here, with the number of extreme floods also increasing from 1985 to 2010. So though it is some zigzag pattern, but the tendency is also increasing. So it is an also alarming thing for our agricultural production and livelihood patterns. Extreme floods not only impact on the agricultural sector or crop production, but also it impacts the peoples by direct or indirect pathways. And we can listed here the direct impacts and indirect impacts. If we consider this, there is economic, social, and environmental impacts. So impacts of the extreme floods not only localized on that part inundated region, but also this effect also spread from the far away of the flooded region to the livelihood pattern also. So all these are direct impacts and indirect impacts of the extreme floods. So being a low-lying developing country, Bangladesh, 60% of its landmass is situated less than 6 meters above sea level. Every year, Bangladesh experienced a flood submerged 30 to 70% area of the country, and one of the most vulnerable countries to climate change. Climate change is a threat for Bangladesh, and it's expected that by 2030, 10 to 15% rise in mean monsoon rainfall, and the temperature will be increased by 0.5 to 2 degrees Celsius, which is indicating that the natural disasters or other consequences of climate change will be prominent for the next few years. So we have to think about how do we address these effects for climate change. And the flash flood, river floods, this will be increased, expected to be increased, and cyclonic floods, the consequences or incidents will be increased in the next few years. So, however, this is the bar graph showing that area affected by the different kinds of floods. The two major floods in 1988 and 1998. About 61 districts was affected and covered about 68% area. And in 1988, it was prolonged for a date of 19 days. So it's also alarming statistics for us that if something happen in the next few years due to climate change, it will hamper a lot, because the population is increasing, cultivable land area is decreasing for the last few years. These are also statistics of that how much it was cost or lost by this flood. So in 2017, we can see that huge amount of this crop production was affected by these extreme floods. And extreme flood also affected the livelihood or occupation of some peoples. You can see that in 2017, the char areas of particularly in Bangladesh, the agricultural based occupation peoples from agriculture to migrated to become a jobless or migrated to other occupation, which is also risk for the people, because the income will be decreased and they will not concentrate on the nutrition or security or nutritional requirement of them. So we have to think about, to address the climate change and threats of the climate change, we have to think about the resilient agriculture. Because climate resilient agriculture will address how to reduce the production of agricultural commodities due to climate change, and how can we extend or I can increase that the production and also the nutrition. So climate resilient agriculture, the approach that farming that focus on building resilience to the impacts of climate change. And it also includes the practices and techniques that can help crops and livestock to withstand extreme weather events. At its core, climate resilient agriculture is about working with nature, not against it, or the working with accepting that climate change is occurring, and we have to withdraw, or we have to maintain our crop production, nutritional security, even under that threats. Involving the practices like diversifying crops, improving soil health, and managing water resources in a sustainable way, and reduce the vulnerability to climate shocks and ensure the reliable source of food and income of the farmers. So there are three pillars in climate resilient agriculture. This is sustainability, building resilience, reducing greenhouse gas emissions. So we have to consider both these things. So because greenhouse gas emission already have climate change in impact on agriculture, which ultimately causes the risk for the livelihood and the crop production and other things. So climate resilient agriculture, actually adaptation and mitigation of these different techniques, and these processes also have some vulnerability to reduce vulnerability and maintain the climate resilient agricultural practices. So in case of adaptation, we can see that adaptation means the adjustment in the ecological and social and economic system to respond actual expected stimuli and their impacts on the agricultural production. Mitigation is the intervention to reduce the emission sources of NOx and the sink of greenhouse gases. So we have to think about this also, that we have to reduce the emission of greenhouse gas concentration. So mitigation strategies include that cropland management, improved agronomic practices, nutrient management and tillage management, livestock management, improved feeding practices, because that livestock that feeds the different kinds of feed materials, and they have the contribution by emission of greenhouse gases. So if we modify the feeding, so we can also reduce that greenhouse gas emission from the livestock and also from the crop field. So then manure management, anaerobic digestion or more efficient use as a nutrient source. So all these things can mitigate the mitigate the strategies for climate change. There are some few technologies involved in resilient agriculture. I focused on improved crop varieties, crop diversification, soil and water conservation, and agroforestry and the vertical agriculture. So crop diversification, actually the diversified crop. So there is different kinds of crops in different climate requirements based on that area. And this climate variety also ensure food security and nutritional security, employment generation for different season and different kind of crops. And particularly in Bangladesh, that the triple crop area has increased for the last few years, and ensure that the climate change pattern, if some incidents, natural disaster occur for one season, so we can recover it, or we can mitigate, or we can reduce the loss by another crop from that field. Improve crop varieties. So we need to design, or we need to improve from some drought tolerant or salinity tolerant or stress tolerant varieties, for which can grow under the stress condition and give our better production. So already some organization like the Rice Research Institute and Agriculture Research Institute and Bangladesh Institute of Nuclear Agriculture working on different stress tolerant variety, and they already developed few varieties for different region and for under different stress condition. Soil and water conservation. Because of deforestation, so some soils erosion is increasing, and it causes the increase the nitrogen fixation and maintaining soil moisture and decrease water wastage. So this all these conservation techniques will have to introduce. And with the forage, we can see that there are some forage in the field, so it can reduce raindrop impact by 16% and increase infiltration. However, without forage, we can say the soil erosion increases and rain is higher by 60%. In case of agroforestry practices, we can see that integration of trees and shrubs in the annual crop production. It ensures extraction of nutrients from deep soil and soil fertility through control erosion. Then carbon sequestration also increased, and ultimately the socio-economic benefits also increased from that agroforestry practices. Now, for this another technique, vertical agriculture, which is of my interest. We vertical agriculture for the resilient of towards the agriculture climate change. We aim to create sustainable and resilient food system. Climate resilient agriculture focusing on the adapting farming system to climate change impact, whereas vertical agriculture offers a solution by utilizing vertical space and control environment. Both approaches prioritize resource optimization and diversification crops. Thus enhance agriculture sustainability and resilience in the face of climate change and other challenges. So that's vertical agriculture, nothing but the farming of crops vertically and utilize the space and resources from a control environment. And it is particularly helpful in the urban areas for more sustainable food system. And vertical agriculture ensures maximization of the space utilization and reduce water use, because we recycle the water for our crop production. So there are major three groups: hydroponics, aeroponics, and aquaponics. Hydroponics actually depends on the nutrient solution. Aeroponics is actually the vertical agriculture that involves the growing plants in a mist or fog. And aquaponics, it is the combination of crop and fish. So fish waste acts as or provide nutrients to the plants, and then plants nutrients also circulate, filter, and it is also circulate for the fish culture. So that's why it is known as aquaponics. And so we will focus on the hydroponic system. So hydroponic system is important because the population growth, the reduction of agricultural land, and management of agriculture, environmental pollution, and climate change are the major challenges to the agriculture sectors. So hydroponic system can ensure that a nutrient solution and production of crops and vegetables, fruits and vegetables are highly decreased, and risk of many types of chronic diseases is human. Sorry. So high demand of vegetables is also increasing because people nowadays are very concerned about their health and nutritional requirement. So this is the hydroponic system and the component. This is the nutrient solution. It is circulated and supply nutrient to the plants, and again it's recycled. There is a pump and there is a growing media, and sunlight or some kind of artificial light is provided for the growth of the crops. So now our studies, I want to focus to explore the potentiality of fruits and vegetables grown in soilless system to mitigate malnutrition. So actually, for the hydroponic system, we used Hogland solution. Here is the composition of Hogland solution. But my interest is to how we can modify or increase the nutrient composition of the plants by increasing the or by changing the nutrient. I targeted for the nitrate concentration. So we use different doses concentration of nitrate for this. This is the soil grown crops for S, and T0 means 0 molar nitrate, T 0.5 means 0 molar nitrate, and 1 means 1 molar, and T2 means 2 molar nitrate. And we we studied tomato, capsicum, and lettuce, and different composition different proximate composition biochemical components was measured for these crops. So here is the crops in the hydroponic system. You can see that there is a tomato. So this tomato crops, and we harvested the tomato after maturity or after ripening, and we can see that T2 was difficult because the concentration was very high. For nitrate concentration was high. This is the soil grown, and if we judge about superficially, we can see that the soil and T1 is almost closely. So if we look at the graphs, so we can see that moisture ash content was not different between the different treatment, but however the protein concentration increased dose dependently due to nitrate. And also that other things is TSS also decreased, and vitamin C concentration was slightly affected, but it was not, but in case of this is antioxidant inhibition, because that is the DPPH inhibition. So it say that how can they withstand the stress or some kind of mechanism. So it was higher in case of TO1. So other things was not so significantly different, but total chlorophyll was slightly higher. In case of enzymatic antioxidants, we can see that catalase activity was very much comparatively higher in T1 treatment. And in case of lettuce, we can see that lettuce grown in different treatment, under different treatment, and healthy lettuce was produced by the Hogland solution. So we can see that leaf area was also increased, but in case of leaf length, it was significantly increased in T1 and T2. So by changing the nitrate concentration, we can leaf area of the lettuce will be increased, and leaf width was also increased dose dependently. Number of leaf also increased, but root length is significantly decreased or dose dependently decreased by nitrate. Shoot length was not hampered, other factors. So in case of beta carotene, we can see that beta carotene also a little bit tendency to increase. In case of total soluble sugar, there was a T1 that showed that highest amount of total soluble sugar, and total chlorophyll also increased by nitrate treatment. It is actually due to nitrate causes the formation of chlorophyll, nitrogenous compounds. Vitamin C also increased compared to the soil condition. And we can see that other factors were not affected by this treatment. In case of lettuce, that proximate composition, we can see that total area of these things are not significantly different. And in case of capsicum were grown. This is the soil grown, and this is the under treatment, and different treatment. We can see that number of fruits per plants also increased here. And in case of total chlorophyll. It also increases MD, and beta carotene also showed highest in case of T1 treatment. Here we can see that vitamin C also are not or little bit higher in case of treatment 1, that is 1 molar nitrate. Other things was not significantly different, but catalyze activity was significantly increased, but POD concentration decreased, activity decreased, whereas APX activity increased dose dependently. So all these are enzymatic antioxidant measurement. So these are these things. And we can see for the proximate, moisture content was not significantly hampered, but in case of we can see that crude protein also significantly increased, because nitrate enhanced the protein concentration, so it increased dose dependently, and other things are almost similar, I hope. So these things, in conclusion, we can say that by slightly changing the composition of the nutrient solution, the biochemical and nutritional pattern could be modified. And even the from the same crop, we can produce the nutrient density increase, and we can optimize the production of the nutrient supply from this resource, and we can ensure the nutrient security. Considering all the benefits of hydroponic system, it is feasible to produce nutrient-rich vegetables through the hydroponic system to ensure nutrition security. Particularly, we can grow its controlled environment and control temperature and vertical. From the small space, we can supply or increase the nutrition or food for the vegetables for this. So this all about my research, and what will be the next step, or what is the will be the next stage. So we have to think about we have to address the climate change on all the things about climate resilient agriculture. We have to prioritize greenhouse gas reduction. So we have to think about designing greenhouse gas emission from agriculture and non-agricultural sources. We have to design structured training for the stakeholders to build confidence and raise awareness about climate change events. We have to implement nationwide CRA practices, that is climate resilient agricultural practices across the country, to ensure broad scale resilience in agriculture. We have to design, or we have to take steps to farmer-oriented programs, to develop flagship programs focused on empowering farmers and enhancing skills in agriculture and related sectors. We have to take initiative for collaborative approaches for fostering collaboration among farmers, research institutions, funding agencies, governments, NGOs, and the private sector to promote climate resilience agriculture effectively. So that World Bank promotes triple win approach, because we need to focus these things with a balanced way. So we have to enhance productivity by increasing quality, quantity, and leading to nutritional improvement, and ultimately increase the income of the farmers. The target of this focus group is on 75% of the total world's poor who live in rural areas, and we are agri-dependent. So we have to think enhance productivity and also resilience by reducing susceptibility to drought, pest, and other climate-related adverse events, and improve this capacity and adapt and grow in the face of longer-term stresses like shortened erosions and irregular weather pattern. In case of carbon sequestration, we have to reduce emission from different sources, like from the processing of the food production, avoid deforestation, and promote methods to capture and remove carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. So that's all things we have to keep in mind for future designing of the climate resilient agriculture practices and approaches for our betterment, for a healthy and productive agricultural production, and a good environment for livelihood, and maintaining a sustainable agricultural growth for the country as well as for the world. So thank you all for your patience hearing.
Thank you, Dr. Chayan Goswami, for your excellent and valuable presentation about climate resilient agriculture for food and nutrition security. From your presentation, we saw the detail about the adverse impact of climate change on agriculture production system in Bangladesh. We also saw climate resilient agriculture, adaptation and mitigation strategies for agriculture and livestock, and some improved technologies that are used for resilient agriculture. And we also some excellent finding for your research. So we are enriched with your talk, and now time for discussion, and floor is open for all, and I would like to request all of you for your valuable questions, comment and suggestions. Please raise your hand, or you can directly unmute and ask your question and make comments or give suggestions, or you can send your question or comment by using our chat box. So, dear participant, now floor is open for questions, comment, and suggestions.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, ma'am. Please
Yeah,
ask your
I'm
question.
Dr. Nilufar Banu, Executive Director, Bangladesh Unnayan Porishad. First of all, I want to give thanks to the paper presenter. It's a nice and very vividly described paper. It's very interesting. So my question is, in our Bangladesh, whatever he is saying, can we do same thing? Or to do this, what we have to do with the people to understand the greenhouse gas and others, and many things, whatever he described. How we will approach this to the people? Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Nilufar Banu, for your nice question and curiosity about these things. So actually, greenhouse gas emission is a very important issue. Recently, we know that from the crop field to the livestock, all peoples are, even from our electronics or cars, vehicle, automobiles, we are also contributing a lot by emission of the greenhouse gases. And peoples now have some and research concern that we need to reduce the emission of greenhouse gases, and therefore we have to design that climate resilient agriculture or practices which are susceptible or which are resistant to reduction for the greenhouse gas emission. Therefore, if we make the approaches or encourage the people to cultivate or to take the technologies, to adopt the technologies which are climate resilience and less greenhouse gas emission, so people will be encouraged. And as we know that also the developed countries giving some funding or penalties for due to they have the contribution of large amount of greenhouse gases emission in the environment and also that world atmosphere. So it will also be important for us if we reduce the greenhouse emission year by year. So it will also help our people, not only for the development of our country, but also world's perspective. And world perspective, world's developed countries and other organizations will take initiatives for that particular things. So we have to take some training programs or some kind of collaborative research and activities to make the people conscious about the impacts of climate change and greenhouse gases, and make the technologies which will be helpful for that. And we have also working on some kind of technologies like using the microbes or bacteria in the crop field, which can reduce the greenhouse emission from that crop fields. For the livestock also, we have some kind of bacteria which can in the fermentation in the livestock rumen and cause a decrease of the greenhouse gases. So research is going on, and I think the output of the research will enhance people, or there will be a positive impact on the climate change, and it will be helpful for the climate resilient agriculture. So thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Charan Goswami. So I have one question. We saw that climate change affect our agriculture sector, livestock sector, environment, and everything. So as an agriculturist, what is your thinking? What are the biggest challenges for Bangladesh in case of the climate resilience agriculture? And how can we overcome that challenges?
Okay, so that's an important thing. So we have to think about, okay, we are developing technologies, but how we can adopt these technologies or implement the technologies. It is obvious that for the kind of vertical agriculture or some kind of, because we cannot keep our lands or the arable or cultivated, because the population growth is increasing the demand for their houses, there some educational institution, and there are other offices. So we need to go to the vertical agriculture, but vertical agriculture need initial investment. So government should take initiative to do some in government level. Not only the government, the private sector will also take some initiative to encourage people or take the entrepreneurs to develop entrepreneurship for the production of agricultural crops from the vertical systems, and it will ensure and increase amount of crop production, and which will ultimately ensure the food and crop security. So in gist, we can say we have to take a collaborative approach from government, non-government organization, and the researchers for efficient utilization of our space, our resources, and make a good output or good impact on the agricultural production. So I think if all organs work properly, so it will be a very fruitful outcomes from that activities, and it will ensure that food and good food and nutrition security even under the climate resilient agriculture.
Thank you for your nice explanation.
I have a question.
Please.
Please ask.
This is Khalil Mughal from NetAccess. Thank you very much for excellent presentation, very knowledgeable and full of substance. I would like to ask, right now through the climate change, like for example, one resource, water, sometimes there's so much of water, but there's no water to be used. So what are the impacts on circularity on your research when you especially talk about the vertical farming? So, for example, can water contribute as a circular resource and contribute as a circular economic benefit?
Thank you for nice question. So yes, actually I did not show the actual picture of my research. Sorry for that. We always circulate the same water nutrient solution, and because of this solution circulation and the root zone is covered, or this is not exposed to the atmosphere, so evapotranspiration is very minimum or zero. And then we can see that the nutrients reagent also pass through the root zone, and again it come to the reservoir, and again it is circulated by the pump. So that ensures that loss of nutrient or nutrient solution by evapotranspiration. But in the contrary, the nutrient-rich solution, the plant can get the optimum nutrient from that particular nutrient solution. So the water requirement is minimum, and also the nutrient consumption is also optimum as based on the plant or the grown on that particular system. So we ensured that water use efficiency is highest in case of vertical system in our research system. And also there are different techniques, but all these techniques emphasize on the minimum utilization of water, or maximum utilization of water by minimum wastage.
And Dr. Wasami, if I may add, keeping in view your Japanese background, Japanese used a technology, a medieval technology called jukaso, which is now very much coming up in Bangladesh also. It is actually the biological treatment of the domestic wastewater. And while you emphasize on locally led adaptation, so one household or one condominium, the bunch of houses can really adapt to this method by keeping just one jukaso, which has a system in it instead of septic tank or a soak pit. So they get the clean water, and that can be utilized very well into the vertical farming model that you have.
Yes. Yeah. They are also focusing on that particular technique, that which also even on that small homestead area they can do this. So yeah, it's also interesting. So even from my experience, I can say that because the growth of lettuce and the other leafy vegetables is very faster in the nutrient containing solution compared to the soil. So we have some corridor or balconies in the city areas or urban areas. So people even can grow in a small scale for their family requirement of that leafy vegetables. And it is the harvesting period is very small, or growing time is very small. So in the year round, they can grow their needs from that part area, particularly the vegetables or leafy vegetables. So it's also important and encouraging for the people, because nowadays in the urban areas of Bangladesh, the rooftop gardening is getting popularity, because it is ensuring some nutrition and also the mental peace from that part. And we can also focus on that vertical farming on the corridors. Even or sometimes people also put some flower tops or something like that on the corridors or the balconies. So they can add also some hydroponic system. So it will also ensure the beautification, not only the beautification, will also ensure there are some parts of the nutrition from that part. So thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, so due to time limitation, we are going to close this session. Thank you all for your time today, and I would like to thank everyone for joining with us. I would like to thank you all for sharing your ideas, and I would like to thank the organizers who are involved to organize such an excellent webinar. And we had a great time with all of you. Please feel free to reach via email with your question, comment, and suggestions. And finally, thank you so much for your spontaneous participation. And now I would like to open the floor for Ms. Fatin Fatia to end up this session. And thank you, everyone. See you next time. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Rakhi. I hope I am audible.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Hello, I am Fatin Fateh. I am the program assistant in Gobeshona program of International Center for Climate Change and Development. First of all, I'd like to thank you so much, Dr. Chayan Goswami. It was a really insightful presentation. Your work, actually, people are aware of the fact that climate change is impacting the agriculture sector, but of course, your work has given them an in-depth knowledge about the current situations, also the vertical agriculture and the technology, about the technology you have shared, have given a really excellent insight to people about the resilient agriculture. Now, I would like to thank you everyone for joining the monthly Gobeshona webinar for the month of July. You will find the key messages of this webinar in our ICCCAD Facebook page and the full recording of the webinar in our YouTube channel. Now, before ending the session, I would like to ask everyone to turn on their camera so we can have a screenshot, and following that we will end the webinar. Thank you. Okay, thank you so much. Thank you for joining this webinar. Our next webinar will be next monthly webinar about all the information about our next webinar will be you will find in our Facebook page. So keep an eye on it. And thank you so much, Dr. Goswami, once again, and Dr. Raki Chakraborty. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your time and comments, and thank you for the organization. So see you later.
Thank you. See you.